All right. Good morning. Happy Feel Good Friday, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well today. Well, I want to welcome y'all to Tyra's Just Saying. Yes, I am back. I'm getting back on my grind and getting back to my podcast, what I love to do most. And today, on today's edition of Tyra's Just Saying, I have the pleasure and honor of interviewing Dr. Tanise McInnis. Let me tell y'all, she is a LCSW. She's out of Mississippi, y'all. She is a community collaborator whose 25 years of practitioner focality has been dedicated to mitigating systematic and institutional oppressions by leveraging culturally responsive practices within education, leadership, and clinical practice. Everyone, I would like y'all to welcome Dr. Tanise McInnis. Welcome.
Welcome. Good morning. Good
Good morning. How are you?
morning. I am doing well for this originally Chi-Town girl to be down here in the South. It is cold today. It's cold.
How cold is it down there?
It reached the 30s.
Shut up. No,
Yes,
we didn't.
yes, and I should be used to cold weather, but yeah, it's cold.
Look, how long you been down there though?
So I moved from Chicago. My family migrated from Chicago to
Hmm.
Mississippi. We had family here. I think everybody
Right.
had family that live in Mississippi have family in Chicago, and vice versa. But we moved them in when I was a teenager. So technically,
Okay.
like my grandmother said, she said, "Girl, as long as you've been here in Mississippi, you from Mississippi now." But yeah.
That's awesome. So tell everyone about your practice and everything that you are currently working on. What are you doing?
All right.
It's
Well,
been 2 years since myself and Dr. Tanise has spoken. She was on Tyra's Just Saying back in 2022. So I am like so happy to have her on 2 years later. Look, it's like a where are they now?
wow. Yes. Well, one thing that is just near and dear to my heart that has stayed the same, I am still a psychotherapist, and my practice is still very active within the community. I
Mhm,
like to call myself a community collaborator because
mhm,
that's what it's about. My slogan is our slogan: empowering minds. Counseling and consulting services is
mhm,
my therapy business. It's an online practice, and the focus is all about collaborating purposeful journeys, meaning that we can't do it alone.
right.
We have to be
Mhm,
in collaboration with one another. Being a psychotherapist, but also a mom of a child who is on the spectrum, a
okay.
lot of my work is geared towards making sure that information and resources are readily available for those caregivers of medically
Mhm,
fragile children who've been impacted by inflation, who've been
mhm,
impacted by stressors, who've been impacted
mhm,
by trauma and grief and depression, and all those things
mhm,
can come about for anyone.
mhm,
And so we don't just our services are not just for that population
mhm,
specifically, but we see anyone. We have elderly clientele, we have teenagers,
mhm,
um, and adolescents, but we do reach out a lot within the community. We hold
mhm.
a free collaborative session each month at the library, our local library here in Biloxi,
Oh,
just
nice.
just to offer some, it's a 1 hour session, just to offer some support, information,
Mhm,
resources for grandparents and parents who are caring for medically fragile children. So that's that aspect of it. I'm
right.
still consulting
Mhm.
with school systems and
Okay.
other private practices and
Mhm,
agencies. Um, and I'm teaching. I've been teaching for about 3 years now,
mhm.
and,
Okay.
and had some previous experience at a community college about 10
Mhm,
years ago, and
mhm,
I love it. I absolutely love it. I believe that we are all called to what we
mhm.
do. we're doing, and I can't wait to get into that part of our discussion about how our identity, our what we've been called to do in life,
Hmm.
shapes how we show up personally and professionally. And so,
Right.
working with students who I call collaborators. That's what Dr. Tan, they know that Dr. Tan, my
Hmm.
word for them is collaborators. Um,
Right.
that we're able to pour into this generation of future counselors, future social
Hmm.
workers, future psychotherapists, future leaders. It is just awesome. It's an awesome experience. I love the feedback, and it is what keeps me going. Um,
That's awesome. That is awesome.
The
What
new
was you getting ready to say?
Go
Mhm.
ahead.
No, what was you getting ready to say?
And then lastly, the new aspect of Dr. Tan is Dope DSW. I don't know if you can see the shirt.
I sure do. I was going to dive into that because I seen that advertised all over your social media, and I was like, oh, we need to talk about this dopeness movement that is going on.
Mint. Dope DSW. So when we think of dope, we just think of
Hmm.
someone, just a movement showing
Hmm.
up that is lasting. And so dope stands for dismantling oppressive systems through positionality for equity.
Okay.
Dope DSW.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
the podcast for Dope DSW will be launching. There is I'm gonna say a session up already, but
Hmm.
the series will be relaunching in January. We have some
Okay.
awesome collaborators within
Hmm.
the community who will be featured on the podcast, but not just professionals.
Hmm.
We look at collaborators, the stakeholders, the people who actually live in the community. They are
Hmm.
what make us and thrive the services that are being offered. So we have a lot of individuals lined up that actually live in the community who will be
Hmm.
featured. They're doing awesome things and who
Hmm.
are dope. So,
Awesome. Look, that is awesome. And so have you been having any events currently? Because I know I seen some things. You had something an event a few months ago about.
let's see. I know that we had the session at the library, and then I was able to reach out and do some consultative work with the NESW in Louisiana, and
Oh, okay.
work with some social work educators and leaders and clinicians regarding aim to unpack and
Mm-hmm.
fostering positionality in the
Mm-hmm.
work that we do with others. I've
Mm-hmm.
also been able to work with some of the staff at the University of Southern Mississippi. I did a
Okay.
session with them, an informational session regarding educators meeting the needs and
Mm-hmm.
collaborating better with students that
Hmm.
may have an autism spectrum disorder. So that was awesome.
Okay. That is awesome. So does that particular school have a program for students who are on the autism spectrum?
Well, they do have a student services department that
Okay.
works with any student that
Okay.
has special needs to be
Okay.
able to ensure that accommodations are appropriately being accessed.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that informational was also to share with educators that
Mm-hmm.
when we walk into the classroom, it's very important that we are establishing connection before
Right. Mm-hmm.
content. And so
Right.
part of that is reaching out even before classes start to say,
Uh-huh.
hey, are there some aspects, are there some needs that I can assist you with? Are there some resources you may need? It's not just about centered around a time when surveys are
Mhm.
due, but you want to
Right.
make sure that that connection is cemented at the beginning, um,
Mhm.
in the middle, and at the end of the
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's like working in the college sector is so rewarding. I was like I did substitute teaching. in my
Mhm.
past, and it was just like working with the kids was with the babies was okay, but it was like I felt rewarded
It
working with the college students, and as you were just discussing a little bit ago about helping them to discover their niche. So can you talk more about that and their
Yes, I think many of us are lifelong learners. Like, if we had an
Mhm.
opportunity to go to school forever, we probably would. I know my friends and family have said, "Oh my goodness, you're back in school again," But
Mine too.
right. So essentially, in being a lifelong learner, this being in the classroom and higher education setting meets that need, because
Mhm.
it's not just about walking in that class. I had a discussion with a colleague, and we were talking about what is so rewarding about it. And it's not just about walking in the classroom and you are imparting
Mhm.
all this information to the students.
Mhm.
No, no, no. When you walk in, as discussed, it's about creating that connection
Mhm.
even before the content has been shared. And in doing that, you are learning from them. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, many of them. I had a student who um, minored for in law,
Okay.
and to see how his perspectives and the reflective
Mhm.
discussions and everything that he was able to offer, it was just like, wow, So
Mhm.
it's not that, okay, I am and I'm gonna talk about this. Mention this when we talk about positionality. It's
Mhm.
Positionality is not about the title. I have a
Mhm.
doctorate, I am the
Right.
professor. Yes, there
Right.
needs to be some boundaries there. But
Right.
positionality is also about how you use your platform, how you use
Mhm.
that title to be able to connect, to be able
Mhm.
to still learn. And that's where the
Mhm.
connection will be, because once those students can see, okay, wait a minute, I'm actually being seen, I'm actually being heard,
Mhm.
then they're more likely to buy in. So the,
Mhm.
the, the learning is collaborative.
Mhm. Let me ask you a question. Do you think with so many people nowadays getting honorary degrees and they using the term, using doctor and in front of their names as well, how do you think that will impact certain students? Just your opinion on what you think, because I know you and I are both earned doctoral degree professionals, but
Mhm.
we do have a lot of people out there who have not. They earn, well, I'm not going to say they didn't earn it, they paid their cash. But at the same time, it's a different type of, let's see, is different type of aspect of how we obtained our degree, our titles, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. When we look at positionality and things like that, how do you think that impacts some of the learners these days?
Well, that's a great question. And I think I'm going to align it with some strategies.
Hmm.
No matter what our title is,
Hmm. Hmm.
there is an identification in it. So let's say if you've gone to school and you've earned it, or if
Hmm.
it was bestowed upon you due to um, your work within the community. I
Hmm.
know a few people like that. They over a period of time, they have
Hmm.
done some awesome work within the community, and
Hmm.
an institution has rewarded that with the bestowal of
Hmm.
an honorary doctorate. So no matter what the identity is,
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
identification within your personal and your professional life are so
Right.
important in the work
Hmm.
that you do,
Hmm.
and what we're called to do.
Right.
And so, in looking at how others and students would know whether or not um,
Hmm.
there's some authenticity there or not.
Mhm. Mhm.
First thing is, no matter if it's earned or not, we
Mhm.
must consider that we bring our entire selves
Mhm.
into practice.
Right.
So
Right.
showing up in the community, are you showing up with clients? You showing up with students,
Mhm.
your culture, your norms, your trauma, your
Right.
who you are, when you
Mhm.
were born, where you grew up, who raised you, all of that,
Mhm.
how you communicate, all of that shows up.
Right.
So, and as I'm thinking about your question, I'm thinking about um, coaches with no, let's say, maybe licensure to back it up
Mhm.
versus
Mhm.
maybe someone who was gone to school and
Mhm.
sort of same thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
no matter what your platform is, personally or professionally, there must be
Mhm.
some type of self-reflection and self-assessment.
Right. Mhm.
There
I
must
agree.
there must be some type of advisement and supervision.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
some some of us within the profession, you can practice 25 years, 30 plus years and say, well, I know it
Mhm.
all, and I don't need to be in supervision with anyone.
Mhm.
No matter if it's earned or bestowed, neither is a destination.
Mhm.
It's in the
Right.
journey and
Mhm.
not in the destination. So
Mhm.
therefore, if it's someone who's practicing, who is not practicing, they've been bestowed the doctorate. It's like, okay, I have the doctorate. This is it. Now what you gonna
Mhm.
do with it? Now
Mhm.
what you gonna do with it? How you gonna use it to show who you are? Um, the other thing, which really
Mhm.
ties into students, because our students can be very outspoken.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and some of our clients too is there is authenticity in action. So
Yes.
therefore, if you've been bestowed the doctorate and that's just it, and you have nothing to um, impart, then
Mhm.
students will know that and they will
Right.
see that, and so will the community. And so just as who you are separates and shapes what you do and how you do it,
Mhm.
what you do and how
Mhm.
it's displayed
Right.
shows who you're going to reach. And that's
Mhm.
where intersectionality shows up.
Mhm. Okay.
How is that person who maybe has been bestowed the doctorate or someone who has earned it,
Mhm.
what what are they looking at? So where positionality was looking at self, when
Mhm.
we're looking at authenticity, it's about how we relate to others.
Mhm.
How is your work um, decreasing barriers for others? How is
Mm.
that oppression? How
Mm.
have you looked at the people who you have served, what trauma they're
Mm.
historically have gone through, or
Right.
what they're going through right now? Um,
Mhm.
what about their status? Are they disabled? Or are they able
Mhm.
bodied? How is
Mhm.
that being considered within your practice? What
Right.
about their lived experiences?
Mhm. Mhm.
Are you showing mattering, or is it all about what you've learned in school? Because we know book knowledge and practical life knowledge can be two different things.
Exactly.
So, and in doing all of that, how are you mitigating inequality for
Mhm.
others? And I think
Mhm.
the people we serve, whether students or those in the communities are smart enough,
Mhm.
whether there's been a title that has been just given or one that has
Right.
been earned,
Mhm.
that will be, they're smart enough to see, are they really authentic, and what are they
Mhm.
doing with this title? Is it
Mhm.
just, I got it, I've arrived,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
are they actually reaching out? Are they actually in community with those that they say that they're serving?
Mm. I love that answer, because it was just like, because a lot of people, that has been like a drawn question for a lot of people, at least this past year. Like I look at 2024 and I call this year the year of finding out, like the year of authenticity. But the year of this year was a very unusual year,
Yes.
and it was, and it's just like when we look at it, it was just like a lot of 2024 was the year of exposure.
Yes.
And I believe we were exposed to a lot of things, you
Yes.
know. The things was the situations and things were there.
Mhm.
It's just that I believe that a lot of us took a blind eye
Yes.
to a lot of the things that was happening. And when you look at that, it was just like, ooh, and I think a lot of people got let down, based off of a lot of the things that they've seen, people that they looked up to, trying to emulate and things of that nature. And it's just like when you look at 2024, in hindsight, this was really one of the most interesting years ever. And it was one of the most years I've seen, I guess, an increase in honorary doctorates. And I was like saying to myself, I'm like, well, is it that everybody, you know, is really needing a title?
Mhm.
Like, it is just like, and for me, it's funny because people have to tell me, will you start telling people you're a doctor? I'm like, I'm not big on labels. And I'm like, it came with a $300,000 bill. Does anybody got some money to help me pay it? I'm like, I'm,
Well,
but it was just interesting, like how I seen, the whole doctoral DR title, how it has, it seemed like this year it just mastersized.
you hit on something so profound because when we think about it,
Hmm.
if the title is there and the title is not there, does
Hmm.
it change the way that we're treated? It shouldn't. Does it change the way that we treat others? It shouldn't. You know,
Exactly.
at the beginning of classes when I'm reaching out, or even
Hmm.
with clients, and
Hmm.
because the way that we communicate, the way that communication takes place is a strategy and a tool to mitigate
Hmm.
some barriers, right? So
Right.
if it's a client or if it's a student, I'm asking them, not only am I asking them, what would you
Hmm.
prefer to be called? I ask them what they would prefer to call me. So I
Hmm.
have, let's say, students who do not call me Dr. McInnis. Now they may call me Dr. Tan.
Hmm.
It's pretty much what they'll call me,
Right.
Dr. Tan. However, and there's a school of thought around that. I mean, there can be a debate about that. I have colleagues that say, I've earned it. I want to be called that, and
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah. People be ready to fight over it.
I get it. At the same time, um, you mentioned about a lot of information and this being the year of authenticity, and I agree with you. I think when we look at social media,
Hmm.
social media was very productive
Hmm.
for a lot of individuals during the pandemic. It was a
Right.
way to collaborate. It was a means for outreach. It was a means to garner, to be able to look and say, I'm going through
Hmm.
that too. To be able, where some populations or individuals were able to look and say, I'm not the only one who's going through that,
Hmm.
especially during the shutdown
Right.
where we're
Hmm.
able to get out. So
Hmm.
it was a means to definitely engage with others.
Hmm.
Along with that comes a sense of responsibility, and I've had a debate with this
Hmm.
in my own family
Hmm.
about, okay, so you have this platform,
Hmm.
and this is where this positionality comes in. You have this platform.
Hmm.
What happens with it? So if it's so easy for individuals to be able to pick up their phone more than ever before. I have a 22-year-old. So can remember when cell phones. I mean, you weren't able to just get online like
Right.
that, But now
Right. Mm-hmm.
information is like a microwave. You could just get it like this, and so I think
Mm-hmm.
that does drive. Um, and then you put in that you add the aspect of income and inflation. That can
Mm-hmm.
drive
Mm-hmm.
not only content that's put out, what's looked at in the increase of title. Well, if I have
Mm-hmm.
a title, then as if, well, a
It gives
title,
more credibility.
right? A title
Mm-hmm.
equals credibility, but that would be the misnomer that society says, and
Right.
that brings me back to kind of dope DSW, because there are
Mm-hmm.
individuals in our community, regular
Mm-hmm.
individuals working a 9 to 5 job,
Mm-hmm.
that have profound experiences, lived experiences that can be so impactful and
Mm-hmm.
rewarding for someone to hear and not
Mm-hmm.
have a title in front of their names. So
Right.
there is a gift in both.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
Okay.
a purpose in both. And I think in showing that, that helps students and on
Mm-hmm.
a higher level
Right.
know too, um, I have something to offer, I have something to give. And
Mm-hmm.
although I may not have the title, that doesn't mean that I don't continue to strive for it.
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
even at this level, I have something to add.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, to piggyback off of what you were saying, when it comes to social media, I think that was like one of the main things with a lot of people looking for validation,
Yes.
especially during, during the big public pause, right? That's what I call the 4 years, because we had to pause for 4 years to figure out what it was. And now that we're back, it's like, okay, trying to get acclimate back to to what we deem as our own individual normals. But it was like, but when you think about all of that, it was just like, yeah, people were really trying to establish their own way, if trying to figure themselves out, so it was like the whole identity. When I started my first doctoral degree, my thesis was on my dissertation actually was on identity crisis in social media.
Ah.
And yeah, and so then when 2020 came, it just blew my whole dissertation. So so when I finished, so when I went back and I completed my doctoral degree and got did my dissertation, this time I did it on black minority women sustaining their businesses throughout a COVID-19 pandemic. So I switched my title all the way around, switched the whole topic, switched everything up, because it was just like when I looked at what was happening with social media, and the impact that it had made on community,
Right.
right? Look, it made, when I look at, I'm gonna say Instagram, because I think that's where I built like a pretty good audience.
Hmm.
Look, I'm gonna use your term, collaborative community.
Yeah.
That collaborative community was able to, bring me to a lot of different people, to meet a lot of different
Right.
individuals, and so when I look at that, I'm like, but I do agree, I think with people looking for validation, and they were utilizing credentials to get the validation that they needed, whether they called themselves a doctor, whether they called themselves a spiritual advisor. I don't know how many spiritual advisors came out during that time. Like, oh my gosh. But when you look at that, it was a lot, and it could be very impactful, especially for college students.
uh, the pandemic definitely impacted a lot of populations, but when you
Mhm.
look at the literature and the statistics
Mhm.
regarding the impact on just mental health disparities among
Yes.
even BIPOC,
Mhm.
populations. I mean, it's
Mhm.
so pervasive,
Mhm.
and you the literature pointed at BIPOC populations suffering 2 times more. I mean, health crisis,
Mhm.
socioeconomic crises.
Mhm.
So to have an outreach through social media
Mhm.
was very profound for
Mhm.
the BIPOC community population,
Right.
as well
Mhm.
as others. But as you're saying, there's also a balance with that
Mhm.
because not only not everything that's put on social media is true. I remember seeing something the other day,
Exactly.
and I sent it to my husband. And he was like, "Wait a minute, we need to double check that." So
Everything you found yourself fact checking everything, and that's where the authenticity comes from. Because we know half the stuff over there is not authentic.
right, right, and then especially with college students, um, a lot of information is taken as fact. So that
Yes.
to me is where that responsibility comes from at
Mhm.
within many of our professions to ensure
Mhm.
that when we are on and we are using media, that we're
Mhm.
using it responsibly, that
Mhm.
we're using it in a very ethical way. Um,
Right.
I say that
Mhm.
I have not broken into the TikTok world yet. Many of my colleagues have.
Me
I
neither.
haven't even
Me, you know what? Me neither. I got I have a TikTok page. I do actually have a page,
yeah,
but I have not broken into that whole TikTok market. Like I did like one or two videos years ago when it first came out, and my family was like, "What are you doing?" I was just like, "I don't know." I said I just went over there to see what it was, but I haven't, So I'm with you. I know it's a whole nother market. A lot of professionals that are in the arenas that you and I are in are saying it's like they was like, it's a whole money pit over there. You can make a lot of money doing a lot of things over there. And I'm like, but again, respectfully, we got to be mindful of what we putting out.
right. You have to be mindful, and then you have to, you know, you had a good question, a great question at the beginning of the podcast. You asked, you said, "It's been 2 years. Where are you now? What are
Hmm.
you doing now?"
Hmm.
Even in line with what your dissertation was. So when
Hmm.
we are creating these business plans and we're in community and in supervision with
Hmm.
those that we trust, we're building a supportive community web colleagues and
Hmm.
discussing some of those future aspirations.
Hmm.
We have to ensure that just because it's the new or the next best thing, that we're not just jumping on anything, and that our business plans are well thought out. I know for
Hmm.
me, God is the center, of
Hmm.
any um, business aspiration
Hmm.
or new new thing that I'm going to pursue. And so
Hmm.
for me, it's important to ask, okay, God, is this where you want me to go? And if
Hmm.
I go, how is this going to align with the purpose that you want me to be a vessel for? And
Hmm.
um, and so who knows?
Hmm.
Maybe TikTok may be down the road, but I just think it's really important that no matter
Hmm.
what area, whether it's consulting, psychotherapy, um,
Hmm.
higher education, coaching,
Hmm.
whatever it may be, that,
Hmm.
that the content that's being put out, the
Hmm.
discussions that are being had are being intentionally and
Hmm.
authentically thought out and thinking about who is going to access that
Hmm.
information, because your true self, your identification, personal
Hmm.
and professional, shows through.
It does. It does. It does. And I think, piggybacking off what you just said, not just jumping on anything.
Yeah,
We seen that happen a lot.
yeah,
It's like, it's that, what's that? They call it the shiny. the shiny diamond syndrome, where people see something and it's like, ooh, and it's just like you see that we've seen that happen so much, at least over the past, I'm gonna say over the past 3 to 4 years, we've seen where people just jump, jump, jump because they seen things that they thought was something they wanted to do, and it's like now, at this point in life is, you got to find what works for you.
Definitely. Yes, you are so right about that. That in that process of looking at it all, determining what is right for you, not
Hmm.
because someone else is doing
Us
it,
doing it right.
not because you saw so and so on there and they making,
They on TikTok making 20,000. I gotta get
because
on it.
not all money is good money. I mean,
Hello.
and not to say that whoever's doing it is, if that's your call and that's
Right.
your passion, then do it to the best of your ability. Um, just being
Mhm.
mindful.
Right, exactly. But Dr. Tia, you're 100% right. Because let me tell you, how many times that I know you've seen it, that the woman that got misled by the man, and she went on TikTok and she must have filmed, I guess, 100 videos or something, and talking about that whole situation, right? And it was just like when I see it, I was like, I'm not watching this nonsense. I'll read the cliff notes. So I read somebody had did a whole cliff note, and I was just like, so basically somebody hooked up with somebody and it didn't work out the way they wanted. I'm like, how many people does that happen to, man or woman? It happens all the time. This is some stuff that happens every day. But I said it was several layers to that whole shenanigan, But after that happened, and that happened the earlier part of this year, how many people decided they was gonna go online and start doing the same thing because they wanted to get all of the same things that this woman was afforded? Now, do I agree with the things that she was afforded? This is just my personal opinion. Hell no. Because it's been many of people who have been taken advantage of in relationships and they ain't got nothing, not one thing from it but trauma and heartache, and having to find a way to pick up the pieces on their own, financially, mentally, spiritually, physically, economically, all of it. And so when I look at that, I'm like, and so when I look at certain platforms, I try to watch and see, how things is moving, because the thing is, it's just, yeah, this was an interesting year.
That that is important. There was a time that a couple of years back I'd stopped watching the news because I think
Okay.
every, you know, each individual
Hmm.
benefit from a media purge and
Yes.
a news purge. You want to be in the
Hmm.
know, but then sometimes if it's impacting your wellness, then it's like,
Hmm.
okay, it's time to
Hmm.
take a break. And
Right.
so in being media response, being responsible and ethically responsible about what
Hmm.
you are putting out there and your platform, we have to
Hmm.
make sure that we're not causing more trauma and more harm to those who are listening. And
That part.
that comes from self-awareness, because if you have a platform and you're not even aware that, hey, I am hurting right now, I'm sitting here. I mean, and sometimes it can be a level of connection. I have watched
Hmm.
content creators who have just experienced some really bad things, some hardships, and
Right.
their authenticity in that moment, I'm sure, reached out to thousands, and it
Right.
created connection with that.
Right.
So that's not to say not be authentic. I think
Right.
there's just that
It's
level.
levels to how far you should go.
Right, right. That
Because it's,
awareness.
yeah, because like I was working with a few people, and I'm not gonna call their names, about with with developing content and getting my message out. Like what message you want to send.
Mhm.
And I am like, I'm face value. What you see is what you get,
Uh,
right? I'm not one that's going to like. I'm not going to make. I can't. I'm not going to sit here and create a whole message that make people cry. I'm like, and it was just like, and they're like, you have to really pour in. And I'm sitting up there, Dr. T, and I'm like, who doing all that? Well, I have a good message, but I'm not doing that, and it was just like, and it was like, as I sit here and I think about everything, I'm like, no, I'm not, if me doing all of this, I'm not being authentically me doing, trying to go in, trying to give this kind of message to these people. You know what I mean? And it was just like, and so not to discredit content creators or whatever. I just think it's, just being able for people who are looking for content creators, find the content creators that's right for you that will help you and guide you in a good direction so that you can give an authentic message. Because Dr. Tan, I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I was thinking it was something wrong with me.
No, no, and that's I guess the great thing about YouTube, as my aunt calls it, she calls it YouTube University,
Uh-huh.
is,
Uh-huh.
is that it's so diverse, and
Hmm.
you are able to find someone that
Hmm.
has the answer, or can give can relay some information on whatever subject matter.
Hmm.
Whether I'm trying to look for a recipe and I'm looking to eat vegan, a new vegan recipe. There are a lot of
Right.
content creators out there that there's some that may have a lot more music or may talk a little bit more, but then there are some that'll just whoop 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 and show you the recipe, and you like, yeah,
Hmm.
I can do this too. So that's the great thing about media, is that I think it has definitely caused some commonality and collaboration, that people feel that they are seen through it. You can look and
Hmm.
see, oh, there's someone else that lives across the world that is experiencing the same things that I have
Hmm.
experienced.
Right.
It turned out okay, and they're thriving.
Hmm.
So that's the good thing about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I tell you, it's always something. So what's next? I know you said you have the podcast launching soon. What
Yes.
else do you have going on?
For 2025, I hope to expand some of the consultative services.
Okay.
I'm hoping to expand Dope DSW. We have an Etsy shop
Okay.
now. Yes, and so that's for social workers and therapists and counselors who may be graduating. There are some cool T-shirts and greeting cards, some Christmas cards on there now. some
Oh,
um,
nice.
some
Did you develop the greeting card yourself? You didn't tell us
yeah,
about your greeting card company.
I did. So as you can tell, I love being able to connect with others who may not feel seen.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's what Dope DSW is about. So some of the greeting cards on there, they're called
Hmm.
Dope Expressions. And
Okay.
um, whether you have a bestie who's
Hmm.
graduating, and I need a card that where the individuals on there are reflective of me. That's what
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
you're going to find. Whether you have, I say, a bestie, whether if you have a husband or a boyfriend or a significant other who has really
Hmm.
been there and supported you through the journey, some of those cards are there too. Family members, a father, mother, or someone who maybe your biological mother and father wasn't there, but you had someone that was purposeful in your life that helped you, then you'll find some of that there too. So Dope DSW, the shop on Etsy, is just another branch of the Dope DSW brand that
Awesome. I love it.
about diversity and mitigating some of those barriers. I mean, how many times have you gone to, I know I've done this, you go to the grocery store and you're like, I need a card. And the words are right, but then you look at the front of you like,
Hmm.
that don't really look like me, you know.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
you know, yeah.
Yeah, we see that happen a lot. I love that you expanded your brand and decided to add that on. That is awesome. Everybody, make sure y'all check out Dr. Ted's Etsy shop. I just went on while we were sitting here and I wanted to make sure I had all the right information. That's why I put up www.etsy.com/dope DSW, everybody. So make sure y'all check it out. I love that, because it's like with expanding your brand, you not only just did t-shirts, but you tapped into an arena that a lot of people ain't tapping into, which is the greeting cards. That's what I love about that. It's great.
Yeah, sometimes.
And just focusing on that one area.
Yes, yes. Sometimes you want to give support to a family member or a friend and may
Mhm.
not have the words to say. And so
Yeah.
hope is that that's where Dope DSW will come in to help you
Okay, I know that's right.
be able to communicate just how happy you are for that person. Graduation is so education is so
Mhm.
essential, and graduation
Yes.
is essential too. From someone who started off with the GED, um,
Hmm.
and for years, didn't want to share that, but
Hmm.
there's power in that. That we
Hmm.
all have some lived experiences, and so there's nothing wrong with the GED. It didn't define um,
Don't
the
define who you are because at the end of the day,
or the the path, and so that's
exactly.
what I want Dope DSW to do, is to definitely center and gravitate towards those
Mhm.
individuals and professionals who are showing up in the community to really amplify individuals that have experiences just like that.
Yes, I mean, my thing is when it comes to education, a lot of people do get GEDs, but you know what? Just because you start there don't mean you have to stay there.
That's
You
right.
know what I mean? And everybody has to have a start, and so, and there's many people who have GEDs and they are doing fabulous things, doing amazing. My thing is it just starts with a plan.
That's right. Right.
Once you get your plan set, there's no stops, no limits. Do what you got to do
Not
to
how you
succeed.
start, but how you end. How you
Exactly.
how you use what you've been through to get where you're going. So
Yep. Exactly. Use all of that as your motivation to take you to that next level.
God is good. Tyra,
Mm.
thank you so much
Girl,
for
thank you for
2 years.
coming on.
It won't be two years from now.
No, we not gonna make it 2 years. This is gonna be the last time. This is gonna be 2 years.
Yes.
Look, you are always a friend of the show. I love you. Want you to come back whenever you want to come on because there's always great conversation. I want to thank everybody for watching us this morning. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope everybody has an awesome day. Everybody on Facebook and YouTube land. Please watch the replays, like, subscribe, do all of the amazing things. Thank you all for joining us, and I will talk to all of you later.
Bye.